One of the ways we reflect on Good Friday, on the sacrifice of Christ, is looking at the 7 last words, we call it, the statements Jesus makes from the cross. And so as we spend this time reflecting, I offer you these verses and these thoughts as we think about all that Jesus went through. Luke 23, verse 34 says, Jesus said from the cross, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Jesus taught his disciples to pray for his enemies. He taught them to bless rather than curse. And as Jesus is dying on the cross and looks at the soldiers, he prays for them because he knows they do not know what they are doing. He offers them forgiveness. Jesus came with grace and love. Further on in Luke 23, Jesus says to the thief on the cross, Jesus said and answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Remember that Jesus was crucified with 2 others nearby, 2 thieves, 2 criminals, one that mocked him and one that asked for mercy. We're reminded that Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me." And even in this last moment on earth, even though he was himself dying as the criminal was next to him, his grace and love poured out to him. He invited him after the request was made, after the thief came to Jesus in that last moment. Jesus offered him that same grace that he offered to everyone, to fulfill what the Father had sent, to receive the salvation by realizing who it was that was in front of him. All of us who call on him are saved. The third word we remember comes from John 19. When Jesus saw his mother there and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to her, "Woman, here is your son," and to the disciple, "Here is your mother." Jesus is fully God and fully human. We know that Mary's journey was a very unique one, that she would watch her son, who was also the Son of God, the Messiah, and she would watch him go through everything. She would even watch him die. And so Jesus knew that his mother would be in need, that she had an emotional need, but also a very real social need. We know that she was probably a widow at this time. And so Jesus honored his mother even during this time of death by making sure she was taken care of by John, we think, one of his closest disciples. Jesus' love for us is very practical. The fourth word comes from Matthew 27. About 3 p.m, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" The reality of the account of Jesus' death reminds us that Jesus did die. He did suffer. He felt the alienation of sin because he took it on our behalf. And yet, even in his suffering, Jesus knows the Father is with him. He says, my God, echoing the Psalms, knowing that even in his pain and anguish, even when he feels that the Father has abandoned him, the Father is still there. But Jesus did suffer. The anguish was real. And he did it for us. The fifth word comes to us from John 19, verse 28, where Jesus said, "I'm thirsty." Again, it's just a reminder of how real the cross was, how real the suffering was. Jesus was fully human and was fully God, but he was broken in this brutal death. Overwhelmed with the trauma and the sun and everything else, Jesus was thirsty. But more than that, this is a thirst for the Father. Jesus' words were filled with Scripture. Even as he spoke on the cross, so much of what he said came from the Old Testament, from the verses and the Scriptures that he knew and taught from. And his greatest desire was for God. Psalm 42 is that beautiful psalm that starts off, "As the deer pants for the water, so my soul pants after you, my God. As my soul thirsts for God, for the living God, when can I go and meet with God?" Those who love God in their ultimate moments thirst for Him and desire to be with Him. Jesus thirsted for the Father and knew that He would fulfill His longing. The sixth word comes from John 19, verse 30. When he'd received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Jesus was not a victim, but a servant. Though dying on the cross, he did not declare the relief when he saw death approaching. Rather, he knew that the mission was accomplished. The Father's work was done. And as difficult as the path had been, Jesus was focused on obeying the Father and doing the work. And it was only then that he gave up his spirit. Jesus is the victor. He has completed the work. That is the great news of the gospel. Satisfying God's judgment and sacrifice, the law, and even more. Bringing back those who had been lost. We are made new in Him because His work has set us free. The last word comes to us from Luke 23, verse 46. Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." These were Jesus' last words before he passed. Yet wasn't his spirit always in the hands of the Father? Again, Jesus is quoting Scripture. He's quoting Psalm 31. It was often quoted as part of the evening offering at the temple, right around the time that Jesus died. Jesus was making more than just a personal statement, but a statement of the power of his own death. Psalm 31 was often used as a children's prayer, a prayer of confidence in the Father's hand overnight. Psalm 31, 1 through 5 says, "In you, O Lord, I have taken refuge. Let me never be put to shame. Deliver me in your righteousness. Turn your ear to me. Come quickly to rescue me. Be my rock of refuge, a strong fortress to save me. Since you are my rock and my fortress, for the sake of your name, lead and guide me. Keep me free from the trap that is set for me, for you are my refuge. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Deliver me, Lord, my faithful God." Jesus committed himself fully to the Father, who would redeem him and elevate him above all things for his glory.